The following program, Normal Show Live, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate for the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate or encourage any illegality. Their state and federal marijuana laws by visiting normal.org, NORML.org. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers of Normal Show Live are their own and do not necessarily reflect the philosophy and policies of Normal. Listener discretion is advised.
You take seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think we need to rethink and criminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws presents Show Live, Marijuana Nation. Now, here's your host, Normal's Outreach Coordinator, Russ Belville.
Good afternoon, tokers and tokettes, and welcome. It is Thursday, October 20th, 2011, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. We're really glad you've joined us here in our little piece of cyberspace we call Normal Show Live. We're coming to you from Rolla J Studios in beautiful Potland, Oregon, and also joining us from the virtual studio in beautiful Grasstoria, Oregon, just up the road at the mouth of the Columbia River, the lovely Cannabis Carrie.
Just up the road if you take a canoe.
You swished right in, Carrie. Well done, they say.
Thank you.
So, Carrie brings us our hemp headlines right after the first break. What do we have in the news today?
Well, I'm pretty excited about today's hemp headlines because we have not one but two video stories. First, we're going to bring you yesterday. A lot of people that were live in the show noticed that we had a little commotion at the very beginning of the show with the KW News channel reporters in there. We're going to cover how they covered our story last night. Also, we're going to go to The Last Word on another NBC affiliate and see what they have to say about that new Gallup poll. And Hollywood Dispensary got slapped with a very large lawsuit yesterday. We're going to tell you about all that in the hemp headlines.
All right. Thanks, Carrie. We're looking forward to that. Also on today's show, it's Groovin' Thursday, and that means it's time for some more great hip-hop, rap, R&B, soul, or funk music. And coming up today, we've got JohnDoeRadio.com, which brings us our Groovin' Thursday music. Today's music comes to us from Everlast, and the song is called I Get By, so we're looking forward to that. At half past the hour, we've got our schedule's a little weird right now. Usually we do Leap Speakers on the second and fourth Thursdays, and we do Southern California Scene on the first, third, and fifth Thursdays, but somehow our schedules got crossed, and we've got both of them on today's show, so you're getting a bonus show today. At half past, we're going to speak with Captain Joe Brooks, a retired Connecticut police officer with Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. He's going to talk about his experiences in law enforcement and why cops say legalize drugs. And then at 45 past, Terry Joyce joins us for our Southern California Scene, along with Dejay Kuti, who's the new co-host of the Hollywood Hemptress Hour. Also, she's with the Patients Advocacy Network. They'll be telling us all about their plans of protesting and fighting back against this federal crackdown that we see going on in the state of California from those 4 U.S. attorneys that are causing all that problem. They'll stay with us in hour 2 for Toker Talk Radio, so those of you listening live will be able to call in to 971-533-7111 with your comments and questions, and we'll be hanging out for Toker Talk Radio and taking all sorts of extra looks at the news as well. So hope you stay with us, and for those of you listening on the podcast, we will be right back after these messages. We are the voice of the Marijuana Nation. Check out our high def podcast feed on iTunes.
This is Normal Show Live, the voice of the Marijuana Nation.
The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the only way to honor the Constitution that gives us these precious rights. Treat law enforcement with respect and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, I respectfully invoke all of my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search or seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak with my attorney, Omar Figueroa. Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at www.omarfigueroa.com.
Tjena, jag heter David, PKA The Dirtball. Vi ska röka hela tiden, alla år.
Weedmaps.com. I'm Radical Russ from Normal. In my job as outreach coordinator, I travel every month, and when I'm on the road, I need a fast, accurate way to find the medical marijuana dispensaries in the area. So I turn to Weedmaps.com. Weedmaps.com has the best dispensary locator online or on your mobile device. Search by zip code or let Weedmaps find you, and in seconds you'll have the addresses, phone numbers, and customer service reviews for the medical marijuana dispensaries in the local area. Weedmaps.com also has a section devoted to helping you find a doctor who understands and recommends medical marijuana under your state's law. You can even check prices on the Medical Marijuana Stock Exchange. Coming soon, you'll even be able to find the listings of normal attorneys and chapters, local head shops and grow shops, and the best weed-friendly businesses. Weedmaps.com has the information you need to be an informed cannabis consumer. Visit Weedmaps.com today, a proud sponsor of the Normal Network.
Inhaling deeply of the sacred smoke.
Marijuana, hemp, consumer cannabis. It's time for this week's Normal News with Cannabis Carrie.
Yesterday in Rolla J Studios, we had an affiliate here in Portland, Oregon, KGW 8, our very own Russ Belville, on the recent release, minutes before airtime, interviewed Russ as he was preparing for Normal Show Live, and then stayed just a few minutes into the show to get some shots of our podcast live. The clips were for their evening show live at 7 and featured an interview with Russ in studio, along with Judy Cushing, the president for Partnership Oregon, and angle these interviews will take when they make it through editing and out to the public, but we were rather pleased with the non-biased reporting of the KGW news staff. The video, and we go to it now.
A Gallup poll shows 50% of Americans now support legalizing marijuana, and that is the first time an independent and scientific national survey showed so much support. News Channel 8's Erica Harquist is live just outside the studio here on the Bricks with more on tonight's hot story. Erica?
Steph, experts say that this is somewhat of a landmark, and this story has a lot of people talking.
Americans have polled in favor of marijuana.
It's a hot topic,
legalizing
marijuana. It even came up in last night's District 1 congressional debate,
the first
right here on KGW.
Significant revenue enhancement.
For Gallup to come out and say this, which has been asking the same exact question since 1969, this is a watershed moment.
Russ Belville is an outreach coordinator for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, or NORML. Each weekday, he runs a podcast out of his home. He says to educate people about marijuana and why it should be legal.
Today we're going to give you
the Gallup poll results released Monday found that 50% of Americans support legalizing marijuana, while 46% are opposed. Look at the bottom. From left to right, you can see how opinions have changed since 1970.
Pretty much a useful substance that is not the demon drug that everyone makes it out to be.
Marijuana is so normalized in the youth culture, it's hard for them to see any dangers associated with it.
Judy Cushing is the president of Oregon Partner Profit, promoting drug and alcohol awareness. Her work is largely around marijuana and youth. Here are each of their reactions to the Gallup poll results.
Disappointment, but not surprise. I think the American public is not informed. They aren't very educated on the subject of marijuana
anymore. They're becoming better educated.
Cushing says marijuana is not a benign drug. She says it impairs learning and judgment. She worries about pot smokers getting behind the wheel of a car.
We're sending a message that it's just fine to smoke as many joints as you want, get high, drive if you want. All of that is bad, and most importantly, it's really bad for their brains.
Belleville says what we're doing right now is prohibition, and it doesn't work.
We have 25 million adults in the United States who use cannabis at least once per year, so obviously the prohibition doesn't work. It also creates great harm in that we arrest 850,000 people a year. We spend $15 billion a year on a war on drugs. It isn't working.
He says legalizing marijuana would create tax revenues, jobs, and business created by industrial hemp. Cushing cites recent research that supports a so-called gateway dimension of marijuana, that its use creates greater risk of abuse or dependency on other drugs down the line.
When the young adolescent brain becomes, they're more involved with other substances.
There's a natural progression to the way people use substances, but that everybody goes on that natural progression. An analogy I like to use is your kid bought a tricycle doesn't mean he's going to be a Hell's Angel when he grows up.
Back out here live now. Last week, the California Medical Association, which represents the state's doctors, acknowledged some health risk associated with marijuana use, but proposed that it be legalized and regulated along the same lines as drinking and tobacco. Steph, back to you.
Erica, thank you so much for your story. Very interesting.
That was a great piece there that they did, and I was really happy with the way that it was portrayed. Interview. And you always, when you're doing these things, you always want to be careful to make sure that you're not going to get some sort of quote taken out of context, some sort of situation like that where it's going to make them bad. So I was really happy how that turned out. I think it turned out as best I hoped it turned out. I hope the studio looked good. Everybody liked what was going on there, and we made a good contact with KGW there. Erica Hartquist, you can follow her on Twitter, Erica Quist on Twitter, and let her know that you appreciate the job they did on the editing of that piece. It made it look good. I did want to address one of the points that I didn't get edited in there that I could have addressed, I suppose, and that's when the woman from Pushy, People United for Safe Healthy Youth, whatever they're calling themselves, she said, we're sending a message to the kids that you can smoke as many joints as you want and get behind the wheel of a car. Nobody cares. Who's sending this message, man? And I know it's not me. I'm not sending the message you can smoke as many joints as you want and get behind the wheel of a car. I don't know who she's been out with, but we better make sure that they're in charge of delivering the messages to the youth.
Last word on MSNBC, Lawrence O'Donnell took the time to comment on that Gallup poll on marijuana legalization released this week. In the poll, for the first time, support for legalization of marijuana reached the tipping point of 50%. O'Donnell has served as a staff director on the Senate Finance Committee and has recently had his MSNBC show, The Last Word, move from the 8 p.m. time slot to the 10 p.m. time slot. In his comment on Tuesday, he made the case about the disconnect between public opinion and public policy. We have the video of his Last Word segment on marijuana legalization, and we can take you to that now.
America continues to rewrite its attitude toward legalizing marijuana, while the federal government's attitude remains etched in granite. Since Gallup started asking Americans if marijuana should be legal back in 1969, most have always said no. Until now. In a Gallup poll released yesterday, 50% said pot use should be legalized. That is, pardon the expression, a record high. A minority of 46% continue to say marijuana should not be legalized. That is a drop of almost 40 points since 1969, when 84% were absolutely certain that pot should never be legalized. Now, in a democracy, we should expect such a dramatic shift in public opinion to be reflected in our public officials. But in the United States Senate, which would have to vote to legalize marijuana, nationally, support for legalizing marijuana has gone from 0% in 1969 to 0% today, even though the United States Senate now includes some admitted former pot smokers who now have no intention of making legal what they once got away with. President Obama, himself a former pot smoker whose academic and professional achievement was obviously unhindered by the occasional high, appointed Michelle Leonhart as his head of the Drug Enforcement Administration. The Obama administration, in the person of the head of the DEA, has insisted that marijuana remain classified a Schedule I drug, which means the Obama administration officially considers marijuana to be just as dangerous as heroin. Now, we know that no one in the Obama administration is stupid enough to actually think that. But we also know that politicians have no intention of facing reality anytime soon when it comes to marijuana. Politicians will continue to allow young lives to be ruined for mere possession of marijuana. Politicians will continue to allow people to be arrested, allow people to go to jail, allow people to get criminal records, get kicked out of school, get fired, be turned down for jobs because they try or use marijuana. Something more than one president of the United States has done and gotten away with. Meanwhile, America is going to continue to get high, as it always has, legally on booze and illegally on a lot of things, including marijuana, which is a much healthier choice than whiskey. Senators, members of Congress, presidents, vice presidents, and Supreme Court justices are going to continue to get high, many of them every day and every night. Many of them will do it publicly and loudly and legally at restaurants and campaign fundraisers and at state dinners. They will raise their glasses and get high. And they will continue to put people in jail for using a harmless, non-liquid way of getting high, like marijuana. Such hypocrisy carries an even stronger stench than the alcohol-drenched breath of those politicians and judges and prosecutors and DEA officials. I really don't know how they sleep at night without those.
Somebody pointed that out to me, and they said, you know what, that almost sounds like a radical rant. And I must say, kudos to you, Lawrence O'Donnell. That was one hell of a rant. Exactly. How do they sleep at night knowing what they're doing to this country, knowing what they're doing to the people of this country, and meanwhile not having a single problem with the most popular high out there, alcohol, being absolutely celebrated in our culture? It's just an amazing load of hypocrisy, and I'm so glad we had somebody in the mainstream media calling them out on it.
And just another California dispensary getting slapped with big money fines to close down. This time, the dispensary called Little Amsterdam Weed Shop that's located in West Hollywood is being served with court papers. The owner of the shop is Drew Pierre Frederick, but his fans know him as Lil Fizz from the R&B group B2K. He opened the shop in July of 2010, and law enforcement officials say that the shop is located in a place where dispensaries are strictly prohibited. The lawsuit against Frederick was filed yesterday in the LA County Superior Court and is asking him to cease and desist immediately and pay the $2,500 fine for every day that the shop has been open. He's currently open 477 days, so his bill to the city is for $1,192,500. But that isn't the end of the money that LA County is seeking from the celebrity. They are also asking a staggering $750,000 in law enforcement costs and attorney's fees related to the case. The dispensary is open for business today. I gave them a call. The person who answered the phone said that she has no idea what the plans of the owner were for remaining open, but for now in West Hollywood, patients who rely on Lil Amsterdam might want to stock up.
Oh, man. So we're going to spend all of this police resources here going after Lil Fizz, Lil Fizz of B2K, and try to shut down his dispensary. You know, it's just so maddening, you know, day after day, week after week, that we do these stories on the sheer amount of police resources, time, money, effort, media coverage that's expended trying to stop Americans from getting, and especially when we're talking here on the West Coast, when it's Americans who've jumped through all the hoops to become medical marijuana patients. And I know in California, it's not that hard a hoop to jump through, right? You know, it's a recommendation. It's a lot more difficult in almost every other medical marijuana state. You got to go get, all your medical records. You have to show chart notes from the past 3 years. There's a list of conditions. It's very narrow, very strictly defined. And that's kind of one of the shames, too, is that in other medical marijuana states, they get painted with the California brush, as if anyone can just walk into a tent anywhere and get a medical marijuana card in any of the states. And that's not. But all that we put forth on doing this, all this police time and effort and money and equipment and overtime that we spend trying to stop people from getting marijuana, when we could turn that energy around into promoting the marijuana industries, into promoting industrial hemp and medical marijuana and recreational use of cannabis, and create a lot of jobs and revenue. It just doesn't make sense. We got a cash cow sitting here waiting to be milked, and you people want to lock us in jail. Thursday.
It's 20 after the hour, and we have to take a short break, if you know what I mean. Please support these sponsors who support Normal Show Live.
Oh, have you ever met that reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would send you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to him.
Fish Design, makers of the original Gandalf.
I'm Radical Russ, and when I want to relax, I always have my 17-inch original Gandalf from Starfish Designs nearby. The hand-blown borosilicate glass is strong and easy to clean, and the design is sleek and sophisticated. Starfish Designs are available from Bend, Oregon at a glass retailer near you. For locations, call 541-788-GLASS. That's 541-788-4527.
Down the centuries, you have slurred the meaning of the words "we, the people of the United States," in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution.
Have you considered medical marijuana? Double-blind, peer-reviewed studies have found cannabinoid therapies to be successful in treating the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, brain cancers, chronic pain, diabetes mellitus, dystonia, fibromyalgia, GI disorders, hepatitis C, HIV/AIDS, hypertension, incontinence, MRSA, multiple sclerosis, osteoporosis, pruritus, rheumatoid arthritis, sleep apnea, and Tourette's syndrome, as well as anecdotal evidence suggesting relief from anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress, plus reduction in the need for narcotic painkillers. Of medical marijuana can include euphoria, relaxation, anxiety, panic reactions, paranoia, tachycardia, dry eyes, dry mouth, concentration and reaction time impairment, appetite increase, and in 37 states, arrest and incarceration. But medical marijuana is non-toxic and cannot cause overdose. Medical marijuana. It's not for everyone, but ask your doctor if medical marijuana may be right for you.
It's time for your daily Toker Tunes, the best in 420 friendly music from all genres, lifts, entertains, and informs the public. We bring you tunes for Groovin' Thursday. Our salute to all the dopest beats and killer rhymes that we find in the best of rap, hip-hop, soul, R&B, and funk. If you'd like to submit your song to be played on Normal Show Live, at normal.org. Now here's some more great independent marijuana music for today's Daily Toker Tunes.
So high, it needed clearance from NASA. It's Yo.
John Doe here with your Groovin' Thursday tune on Normal Show Live. Whitey Ford, a.k.a. Tune Today. I think everybody is going to enjoy Songs of the Unveen, a brand new album out yesterday. You can pick it up on iTunes. You may remember Everlast, such as House of Pain, or maybe La Coca Nostra, or who knows, maybe you even remember Whitey Ford Sings the Blues. Some great tunes from this guy, this one called I Get By. You heard it right here on Normal Show Live. Thank you very much. I am John Doe. Please check us out, 7 p.m. Pacific, 8 Mountain. Thank you again for all your support. It has been a pleasure bringing tunes and bringing you the John Doe Radio Show every day. Thank you. Till we meet again next week, enjoy this tune. We all trying to get by. I'm John Doe. See ya.
Government man keep calling my house, talking about I owe, harassing my spouse. Gotta park my truck on another block, cause the subprime loan got my ass in hot. Got a couple good friends with helping hands. I need a brand new job with a healthcare plan. They closed the plan, they stole my job and told me crime don't pay unless you ask them out. So I smoke a little grass, drink a little wine, watch a little too, try to kill a little time. Every single day I fall a little more behind, but I'm paying it no mind, it'll all be fine. I get by, I barely get by, I barely get by. I stay a little high, I ain't gonna lie, I barely get by. I stay a little high, I ain't gonna lie. Party people in the place to be, put your hands in the sky if you're barely getting by.